10多宇宙之主，1名宇宙尊者，2名宇宙。当初没瞒得过我，人类，怪我，来吧，这个可能性。
Imagine being locked in a secret time prison for hundreds of millions of years with only one way out, defeating a supreme true god, while you're just an immortal king. Sounds completely impossible, right? Well, in this spoiler of SwallowedStar episode 218. Just a quick reminder, this breakdown is based on the novel, so expect some slight differences from the Donghua version. Alright, without further ado, let's dive right into the story. After arriving at the foot of Space God Mountain, an epic encounter finally took place when Luofeng's golden horned beast met a dozen of its own kind for the very first time, all of whom happened to be at the universe venerable level. The Tremble race beast that had been escorting him quickly handed Luofeng over to the group and took its leave. In stark contrast to their ruthless and savage reputation toward enemies out there, these golden horned beasts welcomed Luofeng with incredible warmth, treating him like a long-lost brother. This bond of brotherhood was super strong because they all completely understood how lonely it was to wander the universe all by themselves before finally being recruited into the Space Beast Alliance. One by one, these seniors introduced themselves using titles they'd earned from their past experiences, like Venerable Fan, Venerable Mountain, and Venerable Mercapto Gold. Matching their huge enthusiasm, Luofeng introduced himself as Venerable Golden Feng. The group was totally amazed and kept praising Luofeng's insane talent for breaking through to the universe venerable level entirely on his own without any guidance from the Alliance. Seeing how tight-knit they were, Luofeng could only reply with a friendly smile, trying hard to hide his worry that his true identity could be exposed at any moment in this secret base. The group of giant monsters then shot across the starry sky heading toward Space God Mountain. Along the way, Luofeng dug for some important info and found out a surprising fact. Their race had a special privilege that the other 12 peak bloodlines didn't have. While other races were only led by a single universe master, the Golden Horned race actually had 2 supreme figures leading them. The Golden Horn Master, who acted as the highest elder, and the Xuanmi Master, who had just taken the throne 100,000 years ago. As soon as they reached their destination, Luofeng's eyes were greeted by the sheer majesty of Space God Mountain, an endless cosmic mountain made of pitch-black rocks that absorbed light just like a black hole. The size of this mountain was so massive that it made the giant bodies of the monsters look like earthworms in comparison. Using a combo of high-speed flying and teleportation via the spatial ripples there, the group finally arrived at the courtyard of the Golden Horn Master's magnificent 60-million-mile-wide palace. Judging by its aura, Luofeng instantly recognized it as a super powerful flying palace-type true treasure. With no tight security like a normal palace, a deep, commanding voice from inside immediately told Luofeng to come in, addressing him as "my child." Escorted by Venerable Fan and the others, Luofeng stepped into the main hall and quickly paid his respects to the 2 incredibly intimidating existences there. Standing in front of him was the Golden Horn Master with giant scaly wings giving off the aura of an endless universe, side by side with the Xuanmi Master, who wore dark red armor and sported super long golden middle claws, looking like his gaze alone could obliterate everything. After dismissing the guards, the 2 universe masters immediately praised the quality of Luofeng's divine body, which was so dense it was on par with universe overlords. They were totally clueless that the guy's real body was actually still stuck at the Immortal level, an illusion created thanks to his mastery of space and gold element laws. Blown away by his potential, they believed Luofeng could be trained to become the 3rd universe master for their race, solidifying their top position alongside the Chuhei beast race. To sweeten the deal, they offered him full access to various top-tier secret techniques and ancient legacies stored within Space God Mountain. Behind his obedient act of listening to all those tempting offers, Luofeng was secretly groaning in his mind because his true identity was still an Earthling, not a pure-blooded monster deserving of that legacy. However, right in the middle of a serious chat about soul and divine body strengthening techniques, the expressions of the 2 supreme leaders suddenly changed drastically after they locked eyes. The vibe instantly got tense as the Golden Horn Master stepped down from his throne and announced that the highest existence in the Alliance, the Ancestor, had suddenly issued an absolute order summoning Luofeng to meet him right that second. Extreme tension washed over Luofeng when he realized he was going to be face to face with the Ancestor, the true god figure of the Space Beast Alliance. His position was on par with legendary figures like the huge axe creator on the human side, or his own master, Zuoshan Ke. Seeing his nervousness, the Golden Horn Master and Shenmi Master quickly calmed him down, saying that this was a rare honor that most universe venerables in their alliance never even got. Wasting no time, the two supreme leaders immediately used their space-time manipulation powers to shoot Luofeng straight toward the highest peak of Space God Mountain. After traveling for almost 20 minutes, the group arrived in front of a mountain towering 60 million miles high at the peak of the main mountain range. This sacred spot, heavily guarded by 12 universe venerables from various peak bloodlines, was known as Ancestor Mountain, and its true form was actually a deadly true treasure. The Golden Horn Master warned Luofeng not to step off the designated climbing path because the artifact's passive defense system could easily obliterate a universe venerable. Its crushing energy pressure was so intense it even made it hard for Luofeng to just stand up straight, proving that this treasure was way beyond the awesomeness of his master's Thousand Treasures River. Reaching the deepest part of Ancestor Mountain, the two universe masters immediately bowed their heads to pay their respects. From a distance, Luofeng could finally see the true form of the Ancestor, a space beast measuring tens of thousands of miles with a dragon-like head crowned by 9 horns. In front of the Ancestor, the Golden Horn Master and Xuanmi Master bragged about Luofeng's potential, even showing off his achievement of snagging one of the Blade River Luo components, hoping the Ancestor would be willing to personally train their future Third Universe Master. After their request was approved, the two leaders happily took their leave, leaving Luofeng all alone. As soon as it was just the two of them, the vibe shifted drastically when the Ancestor casually brought up Luofeng's success in killing the venerable Demon Blade, and straight up exposed his true identity as a human. Realizing there was zero point in lying to an all-knowing entity that controlled all the natural laws in the land of extremes, Luofeng quickly stored his golden-horned beast body in his world ring, brought out his Mosha body, and finally shifted back to his true human form. He hurriedly apologized for his disguise, explaining that he'd accidentally gotten stuck in this place and had been forced to use a soul transfer technique on the golden-horned beast body back in the day when he was still super weak. Surprisingly, the Ancestor didn't care about the trickery at all, since the Alliance never really gave a damn about the fate of monsters who hadn't hit the Immortal level anyway. Instead, he dropped an even more mind-blowing fact. Luofeng's arrival at this holy place wasn't some random coincidence, but the result of a carefully laid plan by his master, Zuoshan Ke. The mysterious master apparently favored Luofeng big time, way more than his second disciple, the Flame Emperor, to the point where he was willing to pay a ridiculously high price to the Ancestor just to give his beloved disciple access to the Alliance's central training facilities. The Ancestor then revealed a huge universal secret. The Space Beast race were actually the rightful heirs of the Beast Gods. This made them the absolute best mentors in the universe for anyone walking that cultivation path, easily beating out the capabilities of an institution as big as the Ancestral God Sect. This fact finally answered Luofeng's long-standing curiosity about why his golden-horned beast body could absorb so many Blood River crystals with such ease. However, the privilege of training in the Alliance's most sacred spot totally didn't come without deadly consequences. The challenge waiting for Luofeng turned out to be brutal. Zuoshan Ke had set a passing requirement so impossible that the Ancestor was convinced the kid would be stuck there forever unless he took a shortcut to destroy himself. The Ancestor had even made a crazy bet with Zuoshan Ke, wagering a special Beast God Path, True Treasure series against a pinnacle True Treasure, with absolute confidence that Luofeng wouldn't be able to meet the requirement within 100,000 eras. Hearing such a condescending challenge from a true god actually made Luofeng's fighting spirit and pride boil over right before the giant figure yelled at him to enter and teleported him to the real test location. Luofeng felt an insane time distortion when he was teleported, like he was passing through a dimensional tunnel right back to the original universe. As soon as his vision cleared up, he found himself hovering over a primeval forest with giant trees hitting 60 miles high. From that height, he could see that this new world was basically just two huge stretches, the forest and an endless flat land. The most eye-catching sight there was the presence of super magnificent giant statues representing the 8 legendary natural beast gods in various poses, radiating a thick, intimidating aura as if those savage beast gods were actually alive and watching over the place. Luofeng's shock only grew when his consciousness reconnected with his original earthling body, making him realize there was an incredibly absurd difference in the flow of time. The time ratio in this mysterious place hit a crazy 1,881, meaning every 10,000 years spent there equaled just 1 year in the original universe. For comparison, even the crazy expensive top-tier time palaces built by human universe masters maxed out at speeding time up by 100 times. Right in the middle of his amazement, a deep voice suddenly shattered the silence as a black cloud appeared, shape-shifted into a golden horned beast, and then shrank down into the form of an old man in a white robe with 9 horns on his head. The old man was actually just another form of the Ancestor, who then explained that Luofeng was currently in an independent universe belonging to the Space Beast Alliance. The specific spot they were standing on was called the Beast God World, a forbidden zone, and the holiest training facility that was insanely hard to access even for the geniuses of their own alliance. The Ancestor revealed that Xorshan had personally begged to let Luofeng train here, though he himself was super pessimistic the kid could meet the passing requirements within 100,000 eras in the Beast God world, which converted to about 10,000 years in the original universe. Luofeng's curiosity piqued, and he pressed the Ancestor to tell him what exactly his master's condition was for him to be able to leave the place. The answer that came out of the Supreme Ruler's mouth totally made Luofeng's eyes pop. He had to beat the Ancestor in a fight. Even though the Ancestor promised to only use this clone form and match his divine body's power level to Luofeng's, the challenge still felt like a sick joke. How on earth could a regular fighter take down a true god whose law comprehension and combat techniques had already hit the absolute peak of the universe? The Ancestor then broke down the rules of the fight, which tanked Luofeng's mental state even more. As long as Luofeng stayed at the Immortal level, the Ancestor would use combat techniques equivalent to a Universe Master's pinnacle technique, hacking power that basically bordered on the ultimate limit. If Luofeng leveled up to Universe Venerable, the Ancestor would bust out a Universe Master level ultimate technique. And if Luofeng was crazy enough to break through to become a Universe Master, the ruler wouldn't hold back at all and would go all out with his full power. Every level up Luofeng god would just trigger the Ancestor to use much deadlier techniques. Realizing this absurd level of difficulty, Luofeng concluded he only had 2 extreme options to win the bet. The first option was to stay at the Immortal level, but somehow manage to create a combat technique matching the power of a Universe Master's ultimate technique and achievement that had literally never happened in the history of the universe. The second option, which sounded just as impossible, was to chill in the Beast God world until he broke through all his limits and evolved into a true god. The Ancestor casually admitted that both options theoretically had a chance of success, but the probability was so tiny it was basically 0, which was exactly why he was so sure he'd win the pinnacle true treasure bet against Xorshan. Even while constantly downplaying Luofeng's chances, the Ancestor still kept his word, giving him unlimited full access to every corner of the Beast God world. He told Luofeng to go ahead and study the thousands of law engravings and secret techniques scattered across the statues, cliffs, and mountains there, covering all kinds of knowledge from body and soul strengthening to dozens of sets of ultimate techniques left behind by Universe Masters. Before vanishing and letting Luofeng kick off his long, despair-filled cultivation, the Supreme Ruler laughed out loud again, challenging the Earthling to create a miracle and come find him whenever he felt ready to fight. After the Ancestor left, Luofeng sat cross-legged by a quiet lake to clear his head and think about the insane challenge he just accepted. He realized that his master, Xorshan, had paid a massive price for this opportunity, but the winning conditions felt totally unreasonable. Becoming a true god was still way out of reach, and creating a Universe Masterclass ultimate technique when his law comprehension had barely hit the Universe Venerable limit was straight up impossible. Even relying on his beast god conception wouldn't be nearly enough to close such a massive power gap. Looking for clues around the beast god world, Luofeng decided to check out the giant gold beast god statues that manifested the space and gold element laws he'd been studying all this time. He was surprised to find that the law engravings on the scales of the giant horned lizard statue were super different from the beast god forms he usually saw. This statue gave off an incredibly calm aura. Further exploring led him to other statues showing off different emotions and fighting styles, like being angry, happy, or roaring, with each engraving on their bodies representing highly specific and deadly natural laws. Luofeng's exploration continued to the beast god statues of other elements, like lightning and light, all of which radiated a crushing pressure way beyond the engravings left by Shiluo Duel. He realized that these 8 natural beast gods had a ton of statues representing every single aspect of cosmic law fusion. It wasn't just the statues, though. Every corner of the beast god world, from the ancient trees and cliffs to the lake bottoms, was covered in secret technique engravings left by past generations of space beasts, ranging from close combat techniques, spiritual weapons, and illusions, all the way to dozens of ultimate technique sets left by universe masters. Despite being surrounded by a priceless treasure trove of knowledge, Luofeng felt frustrated because his low law comprehension made him fail to fully grasp the complexity of the ultimate techniques left by huge figures like the Primal Chaos City leader, even when the techniques came with super detailed explanations. He started doubting Zhou Shanqi's crazy high hopes for him, thinking his master was way too confident in his abilities. Even so, reading through the various beast god concepts under the statues slowly answered a lot of questions that had been bugging him for years, making him realize that each statue was basically a god-tier technique connected to all the others. Amidst his despair after 3 clueless days, a flash of insight suddenly hit Luofeng. He realized that Zhou Shanqi knew him way better than the Ancestor did, so his master's guts to bet a pinnacle true treasure had to be backed by a trump card that the ruler of the Space Beast Alliance didn't know about. Remembering he had a deadline of 100,000 eras, roughly a billion years, Luofeng decided to stop rushing and shifted his focus to perfecting his 9-volume manual training to boost his monster form's genetic level. A clever plan started forming in Luofeng's head. He would focus his training on getting his golden horned beast form to a perfect genetic level, potentially unlocking a new inherited technique. Even if he didn't get a new technique, his monster form would definitely be able to unleash the I Am the Universe inherited technique eventually, an absolute attack believed to pack the same punch as a universe master's ultimate technique. Luofeng smiled triumphantly, realizing the Ancestor only banned him from using outside help, but never said he couldn't use his own legit, built-in, inherited techniques in the fight. With his motivation reignited, Luofeng aimed to clear this challenge in just 100 years, way ahead of the billion-year deadline. He threw all his time into training his golden horned beast form, combining hundreds of blood river crystals across various parts of his monster body to max out the amplification effect. As he wrapped up the 6th and 7th volumes of the 9-volume manual, his monster's life gene level kept skyrocketing from 7,000 until finally, after 62 years of grinding hard in the beast god world, Luofeng's golden horn beast officially hit the perfect life gene level. Sitting cross-legged by the misty lake, Luofeng and his 6-foot golden horn beast form were waiting for a historic moment. After training his butt off, his monster form finally hit the perfect life gene limit, a milestone his remote ocean form had also achieved before. Luofeng smiled hopefully, waiting for that drastic change where the universe's origin law would step in, pull him into a mysterious space to grant him a secret technique and massively buff up the size of his divine body just like last time. But that smile slowly faded as time ticked by. Minute after minute passed, yet absolutely nothing changed in his golden horned beast body, and his consciousness wasn't pulled into any mysterious space. Panic started to set in when Luofeng suddenly realized a fatal fact he'd totally forgotten. He was currently inside the Beast God world, an independent universe belonging to the Space Beast Alliance, not the original universe. Even though the natural laws and cultivation levels in both universes were exactly the same, the rule about giving absolute rewards to those who hit the perfect gene level apparently applied exclusively to the original universe. Without any intervention from the origin law, the size of his golden horn beast's divine body was stuck at 600 miles, a far cry from the massive 55,000-mile size of his remote ocean. This was a huge problem, because such a tiny energy pool would be instantly drained before his monster form could even unleash the I Am the Universe inherited technique. Luofeng's hopes of cheesing the Ancestor's challenge using that absolute technique were completely shattered. He was back to square one, stuck in an impossible dilemma where he had to create a universe masterclass ultimate technique purely out of his super-limited law comprehension. While Luofeng was drowning in despair by the lake, 2 of the strongest entities in the universe, the Ancestor and Zhou Shanqi, also known as the Sitting Mountain Guest, were secretly watching him from a nearby mountain peak. The Ancestor praised the Sitting Mountain Guest's awesomeness for managing to raise 2 disciples, including the Master's second disciple to a near-perfect gene level, an achievement that straight-up broke the universe's operational laws and required massive sacrifices. Responding to the praise, Zuo Shanke just gave a slight smile, knowing that for true God-level entities like them, a perfect gene level was basically just the bare minimum. The conversation between the two rulers then shifted to Luofeng's current situation. The Ancestor triumphantly explained that his universe was way more inferior compared to the original universe, so it just didn't have the capacity to hand out rewards like inherited techniques or evolve Luofeng's divine body. He actually felt super lucky this bet went down in his territory, because if they had done it in the original universe, he might have actually lost. The Ancestor was absolutely certain that without the help of a divine body evolution, the only thing the Master's disciple could rely on was the Beast God World's facilities, which he believed wouldn't be nearly enough. Despite the constant trash talk, Zuo Shanke still looked chill while enjoying some of the Ancestor's rare homemade wine. The mysterious Master refused to spill the secret behind his confidence, only stressing that his disciple had a solid chance of succeeding, and if he failed, it was purely because the disciple just wasn't strong enough yet. Before leaving with half of that exclusive wine stash, he warned the Ancestor not to get too cocky, since the 100,000 eras, which equaled 100,000 years in the original universe, had been running for less than a century, and he demanded that absolutely no one mess with Luofeng's cultivation process during that time. After overthinking non-stop for 9 days, Luofeng's mind finally cleared up. He realized that if a true god like his master had the guts to bet that much, there had to be a super logical but hidden way out. The fact that not a single genius fighter from the Space Beast Alliance had ever managed to create an ultimate technique at the mortal level, despite having free access to the Beast God world, made Luofeng realize that relying on this place's facilities alone would never cut it. He figured the key to his win lay in combining 3 crucial things: maxing out the Beast God World's resources, mixing them with his own unique secrets, and, most importantly, making the absolute best use of those 100,000 eras, or 1 billion years. Knowing that his master had paid an arm and a leg for access to this place, Luofeng was sure there was something hugely beneficial for him inside the Beast God World. He kicked off his exploration again, but this time with high-level focus and attention to detail. His efforts paid off when he found 2 awesome amplification techniques in one of the vast plains, a soul amplification technique called 9-Peak Lock that could multiply soul power by nearly 100 times, and a divine body amplification technique named Golden Beast God that also gave a 100-fold boost. Thanks to his willpower and consciousness already being on par with a universe overlord, Luofeng managed to master both of these super difficult techniques to a perfect level in less than 2 months, an insane record that even thousands of Immortal King level fighters couldn't dream of hitting. After mastering those 2 amplification techniques, Luofeng started studying the tens of thousands of secret techniques and hundreds of ultimate techniques scattered all over the world. But after half a year studying them, he concluded that all these techniques made by other fighters would never fully fit his own fighting style, and their power would drop drastically if he used them. His attention then snapped back to the 64 giant natural beast god statues, realizing that those ancient relics were the true, most valuable treasures in the entire beast god world. A conclusion the Ancestor, watching from a distance, secretly agreed with. Luofeng spent 52 whole years just standing there, soaking in the meaning behind every law engraving on those 64 beast god statues. He spent the most time diving deep into the 8 golden beast god statues, feeling every spectrum of emotion from total calmness to pure madness radiating from the engravings, until he felt like he could see the true form of the golden beast god just by closing his eyes. From his deep observation, Luofeng realized that all these statues actually complemented each other to form a perfect unity of universal laws. If he could just combine his understanding of all the statues, he was sure he could create a super secret technique with power way beyond any technique out there. Even though he'd figured out the Beast God world's biggest secret, Luofeng knew that understanding alone wasn't enough to crack the impossible situation he was facing. He had to find an absolute game changer, a unique advantage that only he had, and that none of the past generations of genius Space Beast Alliance fighters who failed this challenge ever possessed. He started taking inventory of all his trump cards, from the 9-volume manual, the absolute treasure star tower, the genetic inherent technique, I am the universe, right down to his limitless ocean of energy, the remote ocean. Sadly, the Star Tower and 9-volume manual had a level of law engraving complexity way too far beyond his current common sense to be understood instantly. Meanwhile, because his real body was stuck in a different universe, Luofeng couldn't absorb any energy from his remote ocean. The only way to test his max potential was by using his main body back in the original universe to run some experiments. After making sure there were no enemies inside his God Country territory, Luofeng finally decided to burn the unlimited divine power of his remote ocean and unleash the ultimate talent technique he got from hitting the perfect gene level for the very first time. I am the universe. An unimaginable explosion instantly rocked the sky above the remote ocean, forming a giant oval sphere tens of billions of miles in diameter hovering majestically in the air. That giant sphere filled with a void and flowing cosmic currents was none other than a miniature universe. And incredibly, Luofeng realized that this miniature universe was a direct extension of his own body and consciousness. Inside this absolute domain, he had total control to manipulate space, suppress enemies into helplessness, and multiply his own power. It even had a super deadly suicide option called Explosion of Universe that could blow up the miniature universe to annihilate anyone trapped inside. But the biggest surprise wasn't the technique's destructive power, but the outer membrane layer wrapping around the miniature universe. Through his consciousness, Luofeng could clearly see how millions of cosmic law threads interwove to form a masterpiece of giant law engraving pictures constantly spinning and pumping out cosmic energy. Even though this engraving was just a super simplified version of the origin law that formed the original universe, which explained why its energy could get drained, its complexity and beauty were totally off the charts, way beyond the combined secret engravings of all the Beast God statues and ultimate techniques in the Beast God world. All washed over Luofeng as he dug deeper into the giant law engraving pictures wrapping his miniature universe. Even though his remote ocean form had to burn divine energy equal to its 55,000-mile height just to keep it up for 90 seconds, the sacrifice was totally worth it. He discovered a game-changing fact: that super complex giant picture could actually be broken down into 92 smaller engraved pictures, which, shockingly, were exact replicas of the law engravings on the 64 natural beast god statues back in the beast god world. Those 92 small engravings worked just like machine components perfectly pieced together by invisible law threads to create a cosmic miracle. This discovery was like blowing open the gates to new knowledge for Luofeng. The complexity of the inherent technique that initially felt impossible to understand had now turned into a giant logical puzzle he could actually solve. Somewhere far away in the original universe, the sitting mountain guest smiled knowingly from his spaceship, confirming that this was exactly part of his master plan. The master knew perfectly well that every supreme inherited technique in the universe was essentially built from 64 basic engravings representing the 8 merge laws, and he'd purposely sent Luofeng to the beast god world so his disciple could see those basic components firsthand and discover an alternative cultivation path that had long been lost. This alternative cultivation path was known as the Engraving Picture Path, a super ancient secret method that had only been mastered by a handful of great beings before the Grand Nirvana era. Instead of having to deeply understand every single cosmic law, practitioners of this path just needed to memorize the shapes of the basic engravings and experiment with combining them, exactly like putting together parts to build a skyscraper. Realizing the limitless potential of this method, Luofeng became completely obsessed and started dedicating all his time to running random simulations of various engraving combos based on the blueprint of the I Am the Universe technique. Meanwhile, the Ancestor, still keeping an eye out from the mountain peak, started getting confused watching Luofeng's weird behavior of endlessly drawing floating engravings in the air for 10,000 years straight. On the flip side, that exhausting long process of trial and error finally started paying off for Luofeng. He managed to create dozens of new techniques, though most of them were still super weak and only one packed a punch equal to the third move of the star diagram. Realizing that trying to master all 64 engravings at once was taking way too much time, he switched up his strategy to focus only on the 8 engravings of the gold beast god, the element he was best at. This new focus sped up Luofeng's progress exponentially. After 1,000,000 years, he started getting the mystery behind the gold beast god engravings, and by year 10 million, he had successfully dissected the secret behind their combinations completely. The real miracle happened when he accidentally put together a combo that produced a Universe Venerable class ultimate technique, and he was able to unleash it instantly just by memorizing the combination pattern without needing to understand the law theory behind it. This thing that was theoretically considered impossible in the universe successfully proved that the engraving picture path was basically an expressway to peak power, even though its existence was kept a massive secret, even among humans. Time felt meaningless to Luofeng as he kept drowning in an ocean of engraving combinations for the next tens of millions of years. He had discovered over 900 million ways to combine those engravings and successfully manipulated over 100,000 of them flawlessly. His endless exploration in front of the gold beast god statues made him more and more of an expert at brewing up deadly new attacks, making him a lone pioneer on his very own path. Watching this unnatural progression from his highest mountain peak, the Ancestor's initially chill face turned dead serious. After observing Luofeng's training patterns for 180 million years in the Beast God world, the Supreme Ruler finally realized that the human kid was walking the engraving picture path, a legendary route that let him create super powerful techniques using just luck and inspiration without needing a solid foundation of law comprehension. Realizing how clever the sitting mountain guest was to have planned all this from the very beginning, the Ancestor muttered softly, admitting for the first time that he might actually lose this crazy bet. An unexpected shock hit the Ancestor as he watched from afar. The Supreme Ruler's face screamed disbelief when he saw Luofeng successfully reach the Heart of Beast God stage, the highest and toughest spiritual achievement on the Beast God cultivation path. This insane milestone happened after Luofeng spent 180 million years of his life in total silence, lying on the giant scales behind the gold beast god statue while endlessly staring at the golden law threads weaving in the air. The massive amount of time spent soaking in those 8 secret engravings caused the line between his human identity and the beast god entity to slowly fade until it disappeared completely. In that super deep trance state, Luofeng's consciousness fully merged with the soul of the gold beast god. For hundreds of millions of years, he no longer felt like a human, but actually lived, breathed, and fought as a savage beast god roaming the boundless universe. He experienced every single emotion from joy to blind rage until he finally died in a brutal cosmic battle. That hyper-realistic spiritual experience pulled him into a deep sleep for 1,000 years, cutting off all connections with his human body and remote ocean back in the real world, letting his soul drown completely in the memories of the beast god's life. When those 1,000 years were up, Luofeng slowly opened his eyes with a blank stare, caught in a brief disorientation of whether he was human or a beast god before hundreds of millions of years of human memories finally took over again. He realized that the magical experience he just had was the true essence of the heart of Beast God, a state where someone could completely let go and merge with the free, true nature of savagery. This unbelievable achievement made the Ancestor shake his head in disbelief. He knew exactly how impossible it was to reach this stage, an absolute requirement that even many great universe overlords like Shulu Duo failed to meet, leaving them as nothing more than fake Beast God incarnations. Figuring out the situation, the Ancestor started putting together the puzzle pieces of Luofeng's crazy strategy. Instead of spending 180 million years studying cosmic laws the normal way, which probably would have only gotten him to the senior universe venerable level, the kid bet everything on diving deep into the engraving picture path and exploring the genetic memory of his golden-horned beast form, which was indeed a direct descendant of the gold beast god. This endless, absolute dedication, paired with the perfect mental state, accidentally triggered an explosion of comprehension that blew past all of the Supreme Ruler's expectations. Wasting no time after waking up, Luofeng, still carrying the lingering vibes of the heart of Beast God, immediately tried to piece together the 8 gold Beast God engravings again, using his miniature universe's engraving as a blueprint. Guided by pure savage instinct without the weight of mathematical thinking, he combined the cosmic law threads however he wanted, exactly like a beast god freely doing whatever it pleased. The result was an anomaly. A flash of golden light suddenly exploded, slicing through frozen space and tearing the ground apart to create a giant valley tens of millions of miles long, before reality finally sealed itself shut just like before. The blast from that attack was so devastating it almost drained all of Luofeng's divine power, leaving him sitting there stunned, unable to believe what he just created. Even though he knew his grasp of the engraving picture path was strong enough to whip up Universe Venerable class techniques or occasionally touch the Universe Overlord limit, the destructive power of that golden light was on a completely different level. Just to be sure of the power level of his random attack, he quickly flew over to a nearby cliff that held 3 ultimate technique engravings left by Universe Masters from the Space Beast Alliance. Upon getting there, Luofeng started reprojecting the engraving of the technique he'd just created onto the cliff face using his divine body. Once the engraving formed perfectly, an insanely complex law pattern radiating absolute power pressure appeared, totally on par with and not losing out at all to the 3 Universe Master engravings next to it. From his highest mountain peak, the Ancestor could only stare in silence, finally admitting absolute defeat before immediately firing off a telepathic message to the original universe, urging the sitting mountain guest to hurry over and witness firsthand the miracle his disciple had just pulled off. Not long after that epic milestone, the sitting mountain guest finally arrived at the mountain peak and was greeted right away by the Ancestor, who told him to check on his disciple. The mysterious master laughed with satisfaction when he realized Luofeng had successfully created an ultimate technique by dissecting the 8 engraving pictures of the gold beast god. Even though the Ancestor was initially hesitant to admit defeat before a physical fight actually went down, he couldn't hide his awe at the fact that the kid had managed to create a deadly technique from scratch and master the heart of beast god entirely on his own without any guidance, all within just 180 million years. The sitting mountain guest felt even prouder hearing that his disciple had broken through to the heart of beast god comprehension, a spiritual achievement that had always been the biggest hurdle for universe overlords trying to evolve into universe masters. The Ancestor admitted that this success was somewhat boosted by the golden-horned beast bloodline, which was indeed a direct descendant of the beast gods, but that totally didn't take away from the value of the young man's hard work. Behind that pride, the master secretly felt like a total winner, knowing his plan of giving his disciple a supreme inherited technique in the past had proved to be the perfect reference to help Luofeng grasp the complexities of the engraving picture's path. Meanwhile, in front of the cliff where he'd carved his masterpiece, Luofeng stood frozen like a guy in a dream. He stared intently at his energy engraving, which was now radiating a power pressure equal to the 3 Universe Masters' ultimate techniques beside it, realizing he'd really just pulled off an absolute miracle. Overflowing with confidence and knowing for sure he still had up to 100,000 eras to keep trying if he failed, Luofeng immediately looked up to the sky and yelled out his challenge straight to the Ancestor. The white-robed Ancestor quickly shot down to accept the challenge, with a chill smile. When Luofeng asked what weapons were allowed in this duel, the ruler actually suggested they fight bare-handed, reminding the kid that for someone who's mastered the heart of beast god, anatomical body parts like claws and horns are the deadliest weapons in the universe. This explanation made Luofeng realize that the line between the warrior path and the spiritual force leader path had actually blurred, and without him even noticing, his focus on engraving pictures had led him to understand the pure essence of combat and the true savagery of the beast gods. Taking that advice, Luofeng used his Mosha body to balance out their divine body levels, then immediately dashed at the Ancestor like a streak of golden light. A flow of engraved pictures instantly wrapped around his entire divine body as he attacked with a brutal speed that even outclassed the agility of the Shiwu wings. Every claw slash and kick didn't just pack pure power from the beast god path, but was also a direct manifestation of the Universe Masterclass ultimate technique he just created, forcing the Ancestor to stay completely focused on defense. The longer the fight went on, the sharper Luofeng's savage instincts got, perfectly blending with his attack techniques. At the peak of it all, one of his claw slashes managed to cleanly pierce right through the Ancestor's chest. The Supreme Ruler just smiled, stepped back to heal his wound in a flash, and calmly admitted defeat to his challenger. Luofeng was momentarily stunned, unable to believe he'd actually beaten such an absolute entity. But the Ancestor explained that from the very beginning, he'd intentionally only used peak defense techniques so the kid could truly soak in and perfect the beast god's fighting style in a real combat situation. Amidst Luofeng's gratitude for all the surprises and rapid progress he'd made in the beast god world, the loud laugh of the sitting mountain guest suddenly echoed to announce his arrival. The master was super satisfied seeing that his third disciple now had a foundation in laws and combat techniques that far surpass many universe overlords, making up for his past disappointment over the Flame Emperor's failure. Even though the Ancestor joked that he could claim Luofeng as a Space Beast Alliance asset since the kid's soul was now perfectly merged with the Golden Horn beast form, the sitting mountain guest coldly replied that racial politics weren't his problem, and he immediately went to collect on the pinnacle true treasure bet from the Ancestor who just suffered a crushing defeat. So what happens next? Let's wait and see in the next video, guys. Okay, thank you for watching until the end, and don't forget to support this channel with likes, subscribe, and comments. That's all from me. Bye.
这个可能性到底在哪里？
快看，都是些究极绝学。
这都到
别急，
这里，我恐怕也无路可退了。